Hello and welcome to the penultimate mainline video of Fire Emblem Last Promise 0% Growths. In this video we will be tackling chapter 27, which is split up into 3 parts because I had several long RN burns that I wanted to have a separate part for. To start off this chapter, we are not loading from a save state like I thought I would need to. There was not a lot done in the preps of this chapter. All you really need to know is that Sean has a door key, Calic has chest keys, has a one-use chest key. Everything else is fairly standard. Calic just received his late game personal weapon, the Arcturus. I actually don't know how it's pronounced, so I'm going to be pronouncing it the Arcturus. Just roll with me. It's a rather strong weapon because it grants some extra skill, strength, and speed. This makes him 1 speed faster than Levion, which is perfect for something he does later in the map. It also gives him a tiny bit of extra crit, which is nice if he ever has to blow someone away with a crit. Originally he was. This chapter went through, multiple revisions, but I ended up finding one and sticking with it. Anyway, I've been talking over what's happened so far in the map. 3 units work together right here, 2 of the Lords and Leopold worked together to take down that hero, because the enemy quality has had a huge jump. Note that this is my 4th strategy for this map. The past 3 strategies have tied this, whereas the first strategy was a whopping 15 turns long. Because we have Gary, and I didn't really get that much of an opportunity to talk about him in the last map, and if I did, oops, oh well, I'm gushing about him again. His stats are insane. 57 HP, 27 strength, 25 skill and speed off the top of my head. His skill might be lower. 30 luck, a lot of defense, a lot of res. A rank in both swords and bows. In fact, Gary is rather important because he needs to reach S rank axes in the span of this map, so he has no healing items in order to get a killer bow and 4 different axes he uses throughout this map. By the way, this is the last shopping visit we'll be seeing during this run, because I don't believe I'll be making any if I do any bonus videos. If I do, you'll probably see one there. You might, rather. This secret shop is the only secret shop in the game that sells boosters beyond secret books. We buy 6 of each. 6 energy rings and 6 speed wings each. These are not necessary. I only need 2 energy rings and 2 speed wings for the strategy I'm planning on doing. However, this allows me to get other units that I like using and I would like to use up to speed, and it makes things overall much easier. I can blow the remaining money, roughly 72,000 gold, on secret books, getting us 9, which dramatically improves the hit rates. In order to get all that money, I had to sell a lot of items, including the guiding ring that might have been used for Arthur, and sadly Storm's Orion's Bolt, because that got me an extra secret book, which is more worth the hilarity of promoting a unit in 0% that doesn't need to be. I could have gotten an extra secret book by not promoting Shuda and using someone like Corbin or Eduardo instead in chapter 19, but it would have only gotten me a secret book, which is 1 crit and 2 and 4 hit, which is not that necessary. A lot of frivolous purchases that I've made that I wouldn't need to, or a lot of things that I've sacrificed, for instance promotion items, or things that I've missed, like, again, promotion items like a Master Seal in the last map, which would have sold for 25,000, don't particularly matter that much, because I'm still able to hit the benchmarks I need. By the way, Leopold being able to rescue Gary is one of the reasons that he was not given the Ethosphere. Another one being that him and Alice are pretty much equal, with Leopold being his only real advantage being bulk, but Alice has much higher luck and resistance, meaning that she'd be able to do more overall combat. And she only gets 10 con, but that's enough to rescue everyone she needs to, whereas Leopold would lose the ability to rescue Gary. I apologize if you can hear me moving things around in the bowl. I'm eating at the moment. I'll try to not let the mic pick it up. Anyway, I've spoken over a lot of map so far, and that's because it's not particularly interesting. This is turn 2, and all we've really accomplished is killing some enemies off to the side. We actually get 2 more recruits in this map, the last 2 in the playthrough, discarding any bonus videos I do. Speaking of the bonus videos, I will not be covering the Constellation, because I, 1, already don't know anything about it, 2, I don't know if it's even feasible to LTC, and 3, I don't know if it's possible in 0%. The 2 recruitments are picked up on the right side. That boss up there is Galaga. We haven't really seen him that much, because I've skipped every cutscene he's appeared in, but he's a really tough boss. And we also need to team up yet again to defeat enemies around this map. Very few units are able to one-shot or one-round enemies. The units that are able to are the normal ones, like Alice, Risk if he gets a crit with Yonigiri, kind of. Gary is a new one. Howard can one-shot some frailer enemies. Le'Veon moves to that specific spot and uses the Tomahawk on that druid. The original strategy made it so that he would get the Tomahawk down to 1 use and then bait a Valkyrie through the wall that would have threatened the units approaching the throne room. This never came to fruition because I realized there's another way to do it with that Valkyrie that's a lot easier. However, he still does bait a Valkyrie, an enemy up there over, which is important. And those of you who have played this map know why. I'm working on shuffling Anakin and Shadow over to the right side alongside Gary. Gary only has this map and 1 other to raise up his axe rank, but it's much easier to do it in this map. By the way, Kellic at base 1-rounds that druid with the Ictaris because the druid is using Eclipse, and the Ictaris gives him 1 more speed than Le'Veon. Leopold is able to finish off this hero using the Kill Lens script. Gary starts fighting this general again with the hand axe. He doesn't even have the amulet. If he did, almost all the lance enemies he faces in this map would have close to 0% hit on him, if not just straight up 0% hit. I'll stop Shadow near a hero, and then we get to see Galagar warping. We don't get to do that. You cannot actually block Galagar from warping because he's a walk-on reinforcement. He whoops to the left of the pillar, then walks onto it. However, there is a way of dealing with him, and thank God, because otherwise this chapter would probably be impossible. I don't know if Crash utilizes this, because I have actually not watched his clear. I watched his clear of the last couple of chapters, not this one. Because I baited that halberdier through the wall, Galagar sees that someone, it doesn't matter if it's a red or blue unit, has ended their turn within the vicinity of the throne room, and he will stop retreating, but he will summon reinforcements to the throne room. Not stop retreating, sorry. He will stop warping. I team up yet again to kill this, Swordmaster. And I might be wondering, okay, everyone else is occupied. Who's going to end up killing the Swordmaster? Shadow works and finishes this hero. This just guarantees Liam's safety. Or Liam's safety, rather. It also gets us another Tomahawk. The one-use Tomahawk plan never comes to fruition, sadly. Because I miscalculated. But yeah. Emma sees combat and gets another kill. I had to turn on animations for that. I'm pausing the recording real quick just to check something. Okay, I was correct. The second part of this starts after this turn, I believe. I will have to check. Just to make sure. Once more. Yes, the units start proceeding to the right. Gary drops Anakin up. Alice rescues Shadow. All goes as planned. Risk is dropped here, not for any particular reason, he just serves as a marker later on. Le'Veon moves over to start baiting a Valkyrie with a Fortify Staff. The stage that Rana silenced early on in the map has the Meteor Tome. So we'll be right back. My apologies there, I forgot to load up the second part of the movie. All of this movement is fairly precise, and Gary's health is rather important because he needs a lot of it for later in the map. My notes were kind of incorrect when I was working on this, so I had to double check and count tiles out myself while recording this, which is why it's not as brisk as I would like it to be. This is why I had to restart. My notes said Devil Axe, but he actually uses the Brave Axe here. You'll notice he has a Hand Axe, a Devil Axe, a Sword Slayer, and the Brave Axe. He uses all 4 of these throughout the map. The Brave Axe is used once, and the Sword Slayer is used once. This is a Killer Bow, which is used a bit later. His bow rank was originally going to be a threat, because he was going to originally be the one taking on the Valkyrie instead of Levion. But it doesn't particularly matter anymore. I had to count this out again. We drop Rana up, not Howard, and then Levion pops an Elixir. Risk is just placed there as a visual indication for me. Levion gets doubled by the Valkyrie. Rana also gets doubled by the Valkyrie, I believe, but he has higher resistance. He has 20 resistance compared to however much Levion has, and he has the Solstice Tome, which being a Lunatome would do 21 damage because of weapon triangle advantage. In case you're wondering what the stat boosters, they get distributed in the next map. The original strategy, by the way, was to, excuse me, get a secret book to, not a secret book, an energy ring to one of the units that does take one, so that he would be more reliable in his role this map. However, that would require me dragging the move through the entire chapter, and he couldn't be used as an, excuse me, jeez, as an RN burner. Gary starts at level 17. He's going to cap out his level, spoiler alert.
The power is within you.
Risk was deployed this map for no particular reason. In the original strategy, he one-rounds the sniper that Gary just shot with a Killer Bow. He originally one-rounded him using a Wodow, a double Wodow crit with 87% hit and 54 crit, I believe. However, now he only really does self-improvement. Sadly, there wasn't enough time for me, and by enough time I mean I didn't think ahead, to get enough time for Risk to actually get a sword rank up to S rank, which would make what he does more reliable. However, I needed some random RNs to be burned during some turns, and there was a much flashier way of doing it than just burning extra RNs. Plus, it meant Risk gets to be fielded for more. Arguably, Liquid would be the better idea to field, because he is 1 to 2 range and also has Silencer, or Lethality. But Risk is actually inherently bulkier. I use the Short Spear here because I use the Tomahawk again one more time. The Short Spear was in my strategy when I thought it was going to be, the Tomahawk was going to be important. It really isn't. Same with the second one used Killing Edge. The original plan was to drop Shadow by the boss on turn 10. However, Shadow would need a turn to use a Cure Water, or to be barriered, and while it could have worked that out, it would have overcomplicated the map. So I decided against it. This is one map that I'm pretty sure can be improved in 0% crits. This map is cleared in 11 turns, I'll say that now, you saw the title. But I'm pretty sure you could tie the Groats run and clear it in 10. Or even faster if you're not doing full recruitment. However, it would be needlessly complicated, and I am counting and finding RNs, and burning RNs, most importantly, by hand, instead of tassing. So, I set a limit on what I allow myself to do, and the final RN burn of this chapter comes close to the limit that I set. Leopold is another one of the units who is technically still able to one-shot enemies, though not very reliably. He is rescuing Chaco.
The power is within you.
There are a lot of chests in this map. Some of them are pretty decent. One of them on the left side, I believe, has an energy ring. One is another Phoenicus. One has a Berserk Staff, which I originally was going to use. One has, I think one has a Draco Shield. One has the S-Rank Tome of Meteor, which is like bolting, but better. But there's only one chest we're going to get. Technically, I could have gotten two if I just gave Levion a chest key, because he has a couple of dead turns later in the map, but it wouldn't have been that helpful. I originally thought Levion was going to have a much more frontline role. He didn't. Levion sits in that one room the entirety of the map. This is what Risk does for the rest of the map. Duel a general with the Onigiri. This gives him a bit of extra sword experience. I would have given him an Iron Blade, and I probably should have saved one and just sold something else, like a spare silver sword. But it's not like it matters that much. He won't be reaching S-rank swords anyway. The best opportunity to have done that would have been 23XX and 23X, because I could have put him into the arena. And I could have given him an Iron Blade and let him one-round enemies, one-round and one-shot enemies, instead of letting Liquid do the same with a Steel Axe, because Liquid matters less. As weird as that sounds. Kellic gets the one chest for getting this map. It is the second pair of boots. Technically the third, but we didn't get the ones in the Siegfried mode. What's really cool about the boots is that they're not going... Well, let me correct that. They can go to practically anyone on the team. Anyone on the team. Okay, any mounted unit on the team could use them to perform the strategy in the next map. Who those boots are going to yet, I don't know. Gary, by the way, has been traded over to Killer Bow. This is the first turn that has a long RN burn. The previous ones are maybe 1, 2, maybe 4, 5 RNs. This turn, spoiler alert, at the end of the turn, burns 34. It's a mess. But there's a particular reason for it. And I will go into that as we see it happen. Sorry, I need to get a drink of water. When it comes to the final RN burn of the map, I will be pressing the speed up button, because it is long. It is rather long, and I rather would not have you sit through that at full speed. I would have done the same in Chapter 20 when the original RN burn was like 130 away. Risk obviously does not need a crit there. We just need to hit. We didn't need to hit, but... That's probably his penultimate level up of the run. The reason why 34 RNs were burned was because of what Gary does here. Gary needs to dodge at least one of the Brave Bow hits. For most strategies, but with this one, he needs to dodge both. He could have equipped a Brave Bow, so he wouldn't have to rely on a Killer Bow crit, but I didn't think that far ahead. Alice is actually the reason I need to burn so many RMs. The first suit that got me here, she missed twice. Gary could have used a Pure Water or something to survive there, if he got hit by both Brave Bow hits. Alright. Now it's time for me to play the final movie. Again, I'm sorry. I probably should pause, but... This starts at the end of the last turn. We heal up Gary so he can do it. We can deal with what he deals with at the end of the map. He could have taken something like an elixir from any other unit and just gotten his axe back. Or actually at this point he could have just traded his Killer Bow for an elixir. It doesn't particularly matter. Anakin definitely should have held on to an elixir. just in case he needs to give it to someone ever.
The power is within you.
This is another something my notes had wrong. Both Alice's positioning and her healing. Although, technically, it also has the RN burn at the end of his turn wrong. But because the RN burn is different, she doesn't need to heal, I don't believe. We'll burn some more RNs so that we can finish off the Valkyrie that attacked Gary. With the Brave Bow, Gary would have won down and get every enemy that attacked him over the wall. This works just as well. The Killing Bow might be slightly more reliable. We get a Physics Staff we're probably never going to use. Every enemy in the throne room drops a weapon. If I didn't... Also, I kept the Obsidian around because all it would have given us was a little bit of extra cash that wouldn't have mattered much, and it just makes it slightly more reliable in the next map because I can use the Obsidian instead of a Killer Axe. What Leopold does here is a remnant of an old strategy that my muscle memory had. He doesn't need to use even Pure Water, he doesn't need to take the Killing Edge. That's a remnant of an older strategy. Where he had to face enemies in the throne room, he needed to have a sword so he wouldn't be facing weapon training with disadvantage from a warrior, and needed to barely survive an effective tome. With the 10 RN burn, Alice one-rounds this Halberdier, causing the Swordmaster to be able to attack Gary, who is the Devil Axe equipped. Gary is the Devil Axe equipped mainly for axe rank, but also because it's a strong weapon. All Gary needs to do is not get crit. That Swordmaster does have a Killing Edge though, which makes that slightly more difficult, which is why the RNs were burned. Those are Frederick and Rachel, and I guess I can give some time to them. They're both kind of eh. Frederick has decent bulk, and I'll give him that. He's nothing special. Rachel might be fielded for some filler combat in the next map, but she's not very important. One thing notable about Frederick, though, is that he has double S ranks without having to do any training. However, his skill is worse than Gary's, and so is his luck, so he can't do what Gary has to do. Well, he could, it's just much less reliable. Gary gets a Sword Slayer crit here. Getting S-rank axes helps him out because he gets an extra 5% crit. Alice uses the Leviathan to gun down this Paladin. She could have gotten a Killer Lens crit, or a Spear crit, or I think doubled with the Spear, but the Leviathan is just one hit. She finishes him off.
The power is within you.
I made a tiny little mistake during this turn. Mainly with how it's positioning. I should have moved him one over to the left. Because it means that I got a little bit panicky. And also, Leopold wasn't supposed to move down, but nothing changes. The Sage is no longer silenced, but that doesn't particularly matter. It just means he can bolt in Kellic, who would survive because he still has a tiny bit of a Pure Water boost, and even if he wouldn't, he avoids it anyway. Shadow could get hit by either of those attacks, it doesn't matter. This is when I started getting a little panicky, because I miscounted. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. I wasn't sure if I should give the amulet to Gary or to Anakin. I did eventually decide on just giving it to Anakin. It doesn't change anything, Anakin doesn't need to dance. And now the longest RN burn of the run so far as I can remember. 94 RNs. Originally Shadow took a goddess icon, so his hit rate was 1 or 2% higher. But now, he has to hit a 39% hit, 16% crit, and get a 25%, I believe, on bosses, silencer proc. He does. I didn't skip the text, and I stayed quiet during that, because I wanted you to hear Gallagher's. As much as I kind of like to say that his character isn't that good, because it's really not, he does have really good music, and that's one thing I will say about this hack, is that even though the gameplay is not great, the music is. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day, and join us here again next time for the final couple of chapters in this run, because Duel of Justice, Kellex 1v1, and then the final battle are all really short and would make really disappointing videos if they were all singular. They will all be done in one video covering all of them. They will have the credits, and they will have a Q&A. I suppose I should have mentioned this earlier, but yes, I will be doing a Q&A for this run. If you want to leave any questions and want me to answer them, please feel free to let me know down in the comments. I will answer any questions that I get on the comments section, or DM'd to me on Twitter, or asked to me on Discord while the credits play out at the end of the run. I also have a couple questions already set aside that I wanted to ask myself at the start of the run, in case I ever did finish it, because I honestly was not sure if I would ever do it. But now, 10 months of work have come down to this. Anyway, thank you for watching again. I hope you have a nice night, a nice day, a nice afternoon, whenever you're watching. Thank you for watching.